I'm joined by Ajit Datta, Partha Hariharan, and Alopal, the curators of Bharat Shakti Pondy Lit Fest. Guys, first of all, a very warm welcome to you again, and this should be fun. I don't know, I've never re recorded a session again, but every time I speak to you guys, I know it's a different conversation, so nothing to be bored
Yeah.
of.
Thank you, Sharan, for having us.
Well, yeah. Thank you, Sharan. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, very good morning to you.
Very good morning to you too. So, just a week away from the Literature Festival, and how excited are you? And what's new in store for the Pondy Lit Fest 2022 edition? If somebody could just brief us about that, Ajit, maybe begin.
Yeah, so actually we are very close to the 2022 edition of the Pondy Lit Fest. It begins on Friday, and we're all very excited. There's a lot of build up for the festival. Everybody is excited. A lot of people are coming down for it from various parts of the country, and we have a very special edition this time because we have two very specific themes that we are following this time for the festival. So one is of course Freedom 75, that's 75 years of our independence, and the other is the 150th birth anniversary of Sri Aurobindo, and both fall on the same day, which is the 15th of August this year. So we are having it on the first weekend of August to commemorate both the occasions. And so this time our format is quite different from the previous editions as well. So we do not have these, large panel discussions and multiple sessions happening at the same time. We have all of it in one hall, in one location, and we have certain lectures, and we have certain conversations between people. So it's either an expert who's talking about their field of expertise for, let's say, around half an hour or so, or you have two people discussing their fields of expertise, again for half an hour. So that's the format that we are having this time, which is quite different from the previous times, and we are hoping that this will probably help us in generating content that has much superior quality, and that really befits
So,
the.
perhaps this is the only panel discussion that is going to happen in relation.
Yeah.
So do tell us more about the sessions that we have with Parthaji.
Well, as Ajit did put this across, these sessions are what we have done is we have tried to divide the sessions into two types, where there are certain speakers who will speak on their expertise on the revolutionary movement. So we have speakers like Vikram Sampath and Kanchanda and Swapanda and all of them coming over, Sandeep Balakrishna, all of them coming over and speaking about the revolutionary movement and etc. So basically, it's going to be like the Freedom 75, that is the pre-independence, and how these revolutionaries have given up their lives and sacrificed their lives for us to gain independence. And a lot of these narratives have been not highlighted in the past. So we are hoping to hear some new stories and new lectures where these speakers would actually speak certain things that have been actually hidden and not been exposed earlier, where the contributions were not really highlighted earlier. And then we also have certain speakers like Gautam Chikarmane and Devdev Ganguly, and then we have Dr. Pariksit Singh and Sampadanand Mishra, who are also going to speak on the on Sri Aurobindo and his contributions, both as a rishi and as a freedom fighter. And then we also have Aravindan Neelakantanji, who will wrap up the entire festival with his own valedictory session. So you see, we are, as Ajit said, we are going to have 30-minute lectures, which are going to be very interesting, which are going to create a certain amount of content, which we are proud to say this time that we have Rishihood University as our academic partner, who will partake in this festival and kind of use this content as their syllabus. So I think this is going to be something
Right.
which is very new, exciting.
That is very interesting. And for the viewers who may not be aware where the event is happening and all the specific details of it, could you please say that? And it's also going to be in the description box below. We are putting the Pondy Lit Fest website and every other details that you need to know. So just click on the website and then you can find out more details in that sense. But where did this thought for you come when you decided that we need to start a literature festival that perhaps gives a space for the Indic thinkers in India, because this was at a point when the left used to dominate the literature festival scene, and the entire Vikram Sampath episode happened in Bangalore, and they had a subsequent fallout as well. Uh, Alo, do you want to come in on that?
Yeah, sure. So the genesis is actually pretty organic. We owe the genesis of this festival to Professor Makaran Paranjape. He has been a regular visitor to Pondicherry, and he has. We contacted him by email, and initially started with organizing a series of lectures for our school students, and then sometimes because his discourse might be of a certain level of complexity, we used to organize a series of sessions, Sunday mornings, evenings, with our school students at the ashram school. And in one of these readings, when he chose to talk about a particular chapter in a book that is called The Foundations of Indian Culture, which is today renamed as The Renaissance in India, we came across this term Bharat Shakti. And 2 months later, he came up with this idea that why don't we, organize an event that centers around this concept, and call in people who can take the shakti, the what constitutes our strength forward. So right in its genesis, I think the concept was very clear. And even though we constantly face not criticism but very sharp opinion on us talking within a closed chamber, the fact is that the bottom line of our inspiration and the work we do is driven by the idea that this is what we want to focus on. And therefore, the constitution of our very first panels, the constitution of our very first speakers, and the topics we chose uh, had this underlying theme of projecting Bharat Shakti. And in doing so, obviously, it's not only glossing over the good. There are forces that impede, the
Yeah,
Shakti from moving forward. So obviously, we take a critical look at that. We take a critical look at factors that do it. So it's not a simplistic discourse. We have taken on extremely contentious issues like the Dravidian movement, that is so insidiously penetrated our psyche here down south. You will know. So that is how the thing started. And right at the outset, I think we were pretty clear and therefore unapologetic about what the content would be. So that is how it started in 2018. And obviously, I think now it is well known that we had to fight a lot of opposition. We had to come up with strategies to prevent the derailment, and we just stuck to our
yeah.
guns, and we had decided that come what may, we will go through it. So that is how the genesis of the literature festival was. It was that vision to
Amazing. And today it stands out as a very proud brand, and all of you must be very proud parents in that sense. But speaking about the challenges, there's also the diversity part of opinions and basically thought process in the right. Uh, Usually, when you talk to rather disconnected journalists and intellectuals on the left, I have a confession to make. Like, regardless of what my belief systems are, I try to understand the other person's point of view, regardless of how ridiculous it may sound to us. So I actually read Caravan and all of these magazines just to try and understand where they're coming from.
it's very
But
important.
but the left, I've spoken to many friends who are not just very smart and educated people, but these people occupy really good positions in many of these magazines and newspapers. But the caricaturization of the right is in such a way that, all of us gather in a hall and we shout Jai Shri Ram, and then we go back home and, all hail Savarkar or something like that. So the understanding and the diversity of opinions within the right itself is largely misunderstood, even among the Hindu right audience. Would you agree to this, Partha and Ajit?
Well, I think that in our previous recording, which unfortunately you missed, Ajit made a beautiful comment about getting two right-wing people trying to agree with each other on the in a room. I think that was a brilliant comment, and I will let Ajit repeat that comment because that was really interesting what he said. But yeah, I mean, I think that predominantly the entire intellectual discourse has been for a long time held by the left. And somewhere, I think that we as a brand would like to create a platform where the right wing come together to create and offer new creative solutions that can actually help India move forward. See, for us, what is most important is to, as Alo has also put it, we have named this entire platform as Bharat Shakti, which is a word that Sri Aurobindo has mentioned in his book in the Foundations of Indian Culture. Now, to come to exactly to quote Sri Aurobindo, let me also quote him at this point. He says that India is the Bharata Shakti, the living energy of a great spiritual conception, and that fidelity to it is the very principle of our existence. So now, this is what we need to understand. We need to bring a counterbalance so that the people who actually come and attend our festival, people who take certain content from our festival, get that intellectual property to counterbalance the narratives of the left. And that is long overdue. So that is what I would say. Now, Ajit would definitely would like to add to that.
Ajit?
Yeah, so actually, this point about there being diversity in the right or the lack of it actually is a point that we keep coming across. It's an accusation that is made against us constantly, and this is something that should be refuted once and for all in a proper way, because this accusation actually comes from a group of people amongst whom you will not find any diversity of any kind. They are like some kind of a, Kushal and I were just discussing this yesterday on his podcast. They are like some kind of an Abrahamic cult almost. And if like you sort of dither on even a small thing, you get cancelled because you are not pure enough and that kind of a thing. So that exists in the left ecosystem very strongly. And as Kushal was also pointing out yesterday, they have only a diversity of faces. They do not have a diversity in terms of ideas. And as somebody who identifies themselves as the non-left, we know very well what they are all about in every field possible. I mean, like, that is a given. You will not have any doubt about where they stand on any particular issue. So that is the kind of the lack of diversity that exists on their side of the spectrum. Now, when it comes to our side of the spectrum, uh, what we sort of refer to as the right wing ecosystem or the dharmic ecosystem or the Indic ecosystem, however, whatever you want to refer to it as, we don't even have like a particular term that we can use, and that is precisely because of the kind of diversity that exists within our ecosystem, if you can call it an ecosystem at that. I mean, that itself is debatable. And you will not have any two
Yeah.
people agreeing on any issue under the sun, because you have like so many variations, facets of different kinds of perspectives on various issues within our system. And what I have always noticed is that there is no way in which you can define who we are in terms of a particular group. It's very easy to define us in terms of what we are not. We are not communists, we are not Islamists, we are not Congress, we are not left. We know what we are not, but to put a label on what we are is extremely difficult. I mean, the only sort of binding glue is that, everybody comes together and they want to do something good for India. They want to take India forward in some way. And they believe in an underlying civilization that we are all a part of. How they define that civilization, what it means to take India forward, what it means, what India itself means, all of that is things that are still discussed within our ecosystem. It's still deliberated, it's still debated upon. And that is why when a lit fest comes from our side of the ecosystem, you will find much more, much more intellectual content than you will find in a lit fest from the other side of the ecosystem, from the other ecosystem. I mean, it will be much more diverse by default. It will be much more engaging, stimulating intellectually by default. So this accusation, in fact, is exactly the opposite of what the ground reality is.
Right. Very, very, very beautifully described. Now, coming to also what Alo was earlier mentioning about, there's a lot of challenges, obviously, to establish now what has become an institution. You know, everybody knows Pondy Lit Fest, and they know what you have to offer every time. But to get there, especially in a place like Pondicherry, I mean, Pondicherry is still a union territory, but I'm sure in the region that you live in, there's a lot of intellectual challenges, especially, and even political challenges to do something like this because of the natural tendencies that the political parties in the south have and their inclinations that are openly visible. So, especially when it comes to South, I've spoken to a lot of BJP leaders, and they say, "Yeah, in the future we are confident. We'll do this. We'll do that." The regular answer. But intellectually, where do you see that disconnect, and how can Bondi Lit Fest actually bring about that disconnect? Anybody can take this. Maybe Partha, maybe Alu.
So we have actually worked on it on this particular aspect right from the beginning. And the fact that despite the opposition, the communists, the Congress, the leftists, all ganging up against us, and we still pulled the first edition through in a government in Pondicherry that was not NDA. I think a large part of the battle was won then. And one of the most important components of our literature festival has been a South focus. By South focus, it's not a token thing that we serve. There are lots of issues that plague us, and one is this dividing force that not only panders to this archaic, oft debunked theory of the Aryan-Dravidian divide, but also, to the point of extremely callous comments about Tamil secession from the rest of the country. So right from the beginning, an there is an incredible pool of intellectuals and vidwans within the South. Partho mentioned Aravindan Nilakantan. There is Jatayu. Michel Danino was eloquent. We had Raghuttam, a professor from Pondicherry University. They are so well versed and so confident and so secure with the primary data sourcing with which they refute these perpetuated theories, and we have made it a point to focus on that every single time, right from the first edition to the second. In the third edition, there is one particular lecture which I really like, that is by Surendranath, who actually analyzed two protests, the Kundan Kolam and the Sterlite protests, wherein he actually broke down the methodologies by which these Breaking India forces work. So we have never shied away from the discourse. We are very confident. Why? Because we choose speakers who know what they are talking about. So come what may, I think the biggest hurdle, I don't know, Partho and Ajit can come in on this, I think was overcome when we pulled this off in the first edition. And anybody who comes up with any comment, we say you can't just come up with a non backed comment. Can you please tell us where we are wrong? Is the Vedic connection to the south wrong? What is the text in Sangam that you're quoting? How do you
Yeah.
claim this? So when in a silent discussion, or even on Twitter when they try to engage with us, when we keep on questioning them back to telling, why are you saying this? Don't tell me Periyar says this. Periyar says this based on what? So you have to continuously persist in every single forum where you have this discussion to their primary source and then refute them there. And that is what we have done. And every year we come across more and more people from the south who speak this discourse with such eloquence. And I think it is an integral part of PLF from the start, and we do not ever want it to be not. It has to be integral. It has to be integral.
Yeah.
Today, this year, we have two lectures that focus on Bharatiyar. You know,
You know,
it's
it's really interesting because a lot of if you go back to the JNU episode and what happened with sedition laws and all the sloganeering, being a resident of the South, I've always felt that, especially during elections, and it's not just in the case of Tamil Nadu, there have been a couple of more instances in the South where very popular political leaders who are almost chief ministerial candidates, they openly sloganeer, from voting out of the country, and secessionist tendencies come out. And I always think, why no criminal cases are filed against them? Why no sedition cases are actually filed against them? These people can say anything during an election, rake up the regionalistic tendencies and then walk away with it conveniently because they're political leaders and they have a certain clout in that particular state. So it's very, very interesting and also challenging at the same time that you're actually standing up to a lot of this. But in terms of the output, but let me come to that first. How do you think? Do you think you've made a difference with the feedback loop that you've created? Because from a participant's perspective, a feedback loop was almost absent from literature festivals, because you would just come, sit in a particular place and watch somebody speak, and then you would just walk away with that. So here, what kind of a difference has that made with Pondy Lit Fest?
Who
Shall
Yeah,
I
would-
yeah.
take this?
hmm.
Yes, yes, please.
Okay. Let me first take a bit of the earlier point that was discussed. Today, as we know, India is on a very strong dharmic and Indic trajectory, and it is being led by Sri Modi ji, who is taking India to greater heights, as we all know. Now, the point is that this has to be treated intellectually as well. I mean, the entire Dravidian politics is also based on a lot of ignorance that the people have had over the last few years. And this has been capitalized by the local politicians and by the local politics, etc. Now, I do agree that some of the platforms that exist, and including ours to a certain extent, we have a very, how do I say, converted regular mindset that come and speak and also attend. Now, we would like to, as a team, we would like to also impinge upon the intellectual minds of the vernacular and Tamil-speaking public, so that we can actually convert their minds and make them understand the reality, what India stands for, what are the dharmic values, what are the Indic values that we actually want to promote. And I think that thereby, as a platform, we would bring about a change in the local public and in the local diaspora that is there in Pondicherry and Tamil Nadu by entering into this vernacular arena where we would be talking to the school children, especially of the age group of the the seventh, eighth, ninth, tenth standard age group, who are going to be our future voters and deciding authorities who are going to be taking India forward. So that we are actually planning to do also in the near future with Sri Aurobindo and Nilakandanji, and he is devising a phenomenal, fantastic workshop, which is going to be tried for the first time, and let's see how it works.
Very good luck with that, and all of us are looking forward to attending Pondy Lit Fest. Ajit, what's your appeal to the 18 to 35 crowd? Because a lot of people visit Pondicherry, especially on the weekends, and everybody knows about Sri Aurobindo. They visit Auroville, but probably just for photogenic reasons and nothing more than that. So there is a very, very sad lack of understanding among the youth, and so what would your message to younger people, our age, be, to attend the Lit Fest, and why it's important?
Well, I think Pondy is offers you stuff that goes far beyond Instagram to begin with. So, and our Litfest will certainly, play a part in doing that if you're here next weekend, because we have a lot of intellectual content, quality content to offer to you. So, do come here if you're in Pondy next weekend, or if you're interested in that kind of thing, do drive down from Chennai, Bangalore, other cities, or try to come here. It'll be a great festival.
Thank you so much for joining me today, and this has been a really fun session. And I'm sure the sessions that you have been curating are even more fun. And this is so knowledgeable and experiential for anybody who
I
will be
just have
visiting.
one
And
point to make. Just one point.
yes,
You see,
Ali.
the underlying theme of Bharat Shakti enables the Pondy Lit Fest to talk
Yeah.
science, technology, defense, security. These are subjects that really mark us apart from all other events. And because we focus on Bharat Shakti, science, technology, defense, and security is
Yeah.
integral to our discussion, is integral to our security, is integral to our progress, and they feature in our Lit Fest. Yeah, that's my.
That's very interesting because most of the literature festivals is often cultural or political in that sense.
True, true.
So they
So
don't really,
we have from the very first edition, we have had
yeah,
scientists talk about our solar alliance. We have talked about science in India. We have talked about we've called archaeologists, and you will hear this time also, and defense, and we have had
yeah.
General Satish Dua, who talks about military acquisition, etc. So that is one thing that really marks us apart.
And in a general sense, the literature festivals that we usually attend, so you discuss subjects like was Tipu Sultan a hero or not, and all of that. I mean, these are regular subjects, and these are all there. But it's not really forward-looking in that sense. It's not really futuristic. But how do you, from a curator's perspective, how do you integrate a lot of these subjects with the overall theme of the
Yeah,
festival?
so Sharon, actually, this is a point that I wanted to make, but I really didn't get a chance to earlier. Uh, you see, these lit fests that took place prior to 2014, and I'm being like very explicit about this, the lit fests prior to 2014 were lit fests that had a certain, elitist hue to it. They were taking place amongst the elites of the country, and they were discussing things about how backward India was, how poor India was, and here were the elites who were forward thinking, enlightened people driving this backward obscure country out of that darkness, and so on and so forth. And that is an underlying narrative that our lit fest sort of completely removed from the picture, because ours has always been a very positive message. So our message has always been, to celebrate India's culture, to celebrate India's history, to take things forward, to discuss and deliberate about, how we will sort of work out solutions to different problems in the coming years, etc. So that has been what our literature festival has been about in terms of a point of view that differs from literature festivals in the past. And when we sort of came about onto the scene, this is something that would have really sort of pissed them off quite a bit, because they had this one very leftist citadel, much like politics and media and the film industry and all of that, which were broken one after the other. They had the lit fests as this one citadel which they were holding, the leftists, which there was no penetration from any other side, and they thought that this will be theirs forever. And then we come in and we do this with this kind of a perspective about how like things are very forward looking, positive for the country, we have so much to celebrate about in the past, and all of that. And this is what really irked them much more than anything else, that their sort of territory was being taken away, and it was being taken away by this kind of a point of view, this kind of a perspective. So yeah, I mean that is something that
True.
that we have always held very dearly from the very beginning.
That's really excellent to know, Ajit, and wishing all of you the very best of luck for the event. I'm excited to attend it, and all of us from Swarajya will be attending it. And please do attend it in huge numbers, whether it's online or offline or in any other capacity. And any of the details that you need is in the description box below. And everybody is super reachable, like you can just text Ajit and he's also very responsive. So in that sense the entire team is very user friendly in that sense. So please do ping us in case you have any queries, and that's it for this session. Thank you so much all of you for joining me. Namaste, and I really look forward to
Thank
visiting
you.
Pondicherry very
Thank
soon.
you, Sharon.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Sharan.
Welcome.
Namaste.
Thank you.